these are some of the questions you come across under said. So this is a pure pass question. Of course, this is an elective math questions. Is that okay? And then the question is saying that we should evaluate square root of 3 minus square root of 2, all divided by square root of 3 plus root 2. They say you should evaluate that. That is the question. Just as simple as that. You ask yourself, you need to know what to apply before you start solving this problem. Is that okay? What do you need? How do you solve the problem? So of course we have addition, subtraction, multiplication, as well as what? Rationalization in a set. So you ask yourself, when do you rationalize and how can you evaluate this type of question? So here you can see we rationalize if you have a radical or a set in the denominator. So this is what I mean by the denominator, the numbers below this division sign. Is that okay? So this is what we call a set, this is what we call a set. If you haven't watched our video on how to rationalize, you may check that. By the summary to that, let's dive into the solutions of this problem and how you can do that. So with this type of problem, the tool that you need to solve this one is what? A rationalization. So if you don't know how to rationalize, you may consider watching that video on how to rationalize and come and check it. So without wasting time, let's dive into the solution. That is the question. We are having square root of 3 minus what? Root of 2. And then all over square root of 3 plus what? Root of 2. How do you solve this problem? Or how do you evaluate it? So what you have to do is that you need to rationalize. That is the point. The reason why you are rationalizing is that you are dividing by what? A set. Or in another word is what? A radical. Right? You can see that you have a radical at the denominator. That is the main reason why you have to what? Rationalize. And how do you rationalize? So in the case of this particular problem here, you can see that we have two different people under the denominator, which are what? Root of 3 as well as what? Root of 2. And they are adding, right? They are being combined by what? Addition sign here. You can see that with the what? The red marker. So how do you rationalize? You repeat everything over here, right? You repeat everything. As you can see, I've repeated everything. The question being given to me. Then you multiply. You multiply by what? The denominator, whatever is in the denominator. There's one key word here. Pay attention over here. The denominator here, the question in the real question says that they are adding, right? Root 3 plus or root 2. If you want to rationalize this thing, you multiply by this thing, everything here by the denominator over the denominator. But just that the sign here has to change. Can you see? Here from the question, from this the question that we are having. From this question at the denominator, you can see that with the red marker here is what? A positive, right? Addition sign. But if you want to rationalize, you multiply everything, the question being given to you, everything by what? That denominator over itself. Is that okay? Whereby the sign here has to change. Right? So this is just like a multiplying by 1. Can you see? Just like 1 minus or maybe 2 minus 2 over what? And so on and so forth. Something of that nature. This is just a law, a rule you have to obey. How do you rationalize? You rationalize by what? Multiplying the denominator over itself, whereby the sign in between the real question being given to you has to change. Is that okay? So this is the question being given to us. So we are multiplied there by the denominator. You can see that the denominator we are having a root 3 here, we are having a root 2 over here. Just that the sign being given to us in the question has to change. This is a law you need to obey. If it makes sense or it doesn't make sense, maybe yours is to move on, learn the definitions, pass your exams, and move on to the next level of education, and then leave everything for the what? Advanced mathematician, whereby they can apply the theory in an engineering field and so on and so forth. Okay, so perfect. So how do you multiply? If you haven't watched that video on how to multiply, add, or subtract, you may consider watching that. Right? Is that okay? But I will walk you through one by one. So this is just like a normal multiplication that we know previously. How do you do? I don't know how best you can multiply this, but I chose to pick this one, multiply by everything here. So top by top and then down by down. Is that okay? That is how you multiply what? Fraction. So I'll pick this one here. I'll use that to multiply everything here. And then I'll pick negative or root 2 and then use that one also to multiply everything here. Exactly what I did here. So I pick root 3 first and then to multiply everything here, right? So that is what I did. The same applies to the what? I'm having what? Minus root 2 to be the second person. So I chose that one to also multiply everything here. So exactly what I did over here. So when you multiply, the same applies to what? The down, right? the same process applies to the down. So I pick this one to multiply everything, and then I pick that to multiply everything. So you may have a different method on how to multiply it. Just make sure that you are following the step systematically. So let's move on over here. So I'm having 3 multiplied by that. That gives me what? 3 times 3, obviously. So 3 times 3 will give me what? Root 3, right? The 3 times root 3 times root 3 will give me what? Root 3. This one times this will give me what? Root 6. Is that okay? And then move on to the next root 2 minus root 2 times or multiply by what? Root 3. That one will give me what? Minus root 6. Obviously, you multiply. In multiplication, what I have to, you multiply the number under the radical, right? You have the numbers under the radical. You have to multiply those two numbers. So minus 2 times 2 gives us what? Minus 6. Then you maintain the radical. That is how we multiply. So minus root 2 times what? Minus what? Root 2. That will give you what? A positive what? Root 4. Is that okay? Down to down, right? So just like a minus 2 times what? Minus 2. That will be what? Positive 4. So perfect. The same process applies to the down, right? So when you multiply everything perfectly, you arrive at this next stage. Is that okay? You arrive at the next stage, whereby you take a square root of what? 9 over here. You can see that you get what? 3. That is a perfect number. Is that okay? If you don't know what a perfect number is a number that when you take a square root of that number, it has to give you a whole number, right? Okay, so square root of what? 9 will give us 3. Then minus, obviously, minus what? Root 6 minus root 6. We can subtract them, but there's a rule in what? Subtraction. When do you subtract? You only subtract when the number under the square root sign are the same. This is just a law. You need to obey that. Is that okay? Just like when you wake up in the morning, you make sure that you brush your teeth before you move on to any other activity. Simple like that. This is just a law, right? When night comes, you have to sleep. It's a law. Is that okay? Something of that nature by assumption. So in subtracting or adding a set, you have to make sure that the numbers under the square root sign has to be the same, right? Those numbers have to be the same over here. So I'm having 6, I'm having 6. Of course, I can combine them. So I'm having minus root 6 minus what? Root 6. It's being assumed that there's 1 here, right? Is that okay? So minus 1 will give us what? Minus 2. You can see that with the red marker here. Then you maintain one of the square root sign. Can you see? So minus 1 here. Then that will give you a minus 2. And then one of what? The root sign. So let's assume that this is the reason. You are just going to repeat only one of the square root sign. That is the reason why, main reason by assumption. Is that okay? In my opinion, that's the main reason why you need to what? Obey that law. That says that the numbers under the radicals has to go the same. Okay. Then what about the square root of 4? The square root of 4 gives us what? 2. Right? The square root of 4 gives us 2 over here. And then when you check the down here, you are having what? Root 9. That is what? 3. And then you can see minus what? Root 6 plus what? Root 6. They will cancel out. Right? This guy goes away. Just like minus 1 what? Plus 1. That one gives us what? 0. And then minus what? Then here we are having minus what? Root 4. Root of 4 gives us what? 2 over here. Right? So you do a simple addition or subtraction case over here. Then you can see that we are having 3 plus what? 2. That will be 5 over here. So that's why I group these parts as 3 plus 2. And then here we are having what? Minus 2, which has no any other friend to combine. Right? So I repeated that to be root 2, root what? 6. And then in this case, when I combine this one, it will give me a 5 minus what? Root 2. So this is the answer to what? That simple question. Once again, for you to evaluate something, you just understand, you need to check whether what we are having is what? A radical at the denominator. If it is a radical, then you need to rationalize. How do you rationalize? On this channel, what we do is that we explain the technical term to you. Is that okay? What it means by what? Rationalization. So what the image behind the rationalization is what we are looking for on this channel. What's the meaning of rationalization? It means that when you have two different radical at the denominator, you should change what? The sign in between them. Is that okay? If it's addition, you change that to what? Subtraction. If it's a subtraction, you bring that back to addition. Then you multiply that what? The denominator over itself. Very simple like that. Then you carry on what? your operation. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then you may consider joining our WhatsApp group for interactive questions. Thanks for watching.